Hi, I'm Dushime.
Hi, I'm Essie.
Hi, I'm Carol, and welcome back to our YouTube channel.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, follow us on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yes, so today we are going to Zambia. Mulibwanje. Yeah, so we're going to be reading.
What does that mean?
It means how are you?
Okay,
I don't think
I'm
so.
fine. Thanks for asking.
How are you? Origin, like yes. Are you well?
fine.
Bambi
Yes.
Zambians, if we blunder, they please tell her so she knows.
Even send voice notes.
Anyway, you guys, so we're actually going to Lusaka. We're going to be reading Patchwork by Banda, Aaku. It was published in 2011 and won the prize, the Penguin Prize for African Writing. Yes.
And honestly, this book. Let me first get myself together because we're literally about to go to Lusaka. So this book is primarily held by Pumpkin. Pumpkin begins telling her story as a 9-year-old, and then eventually we get into part 2 where she's older, she's married, she has a family, she has a daughter. But we're going to take you through that progression. So we have Pumpkin, who is in Tudukot. She stays with her mom, who is called
Toleta.
And
AKA
Toleta,
Ma.
Toleta is an alcoholic.
Is she an alcoholic or is she a woman who's depressed?
I mean, she
And
is, but
drawn
because
to
of
drink.
that, she's an alcoholic. I mean, she doesn't. Pumpkin takes care of her. Pumpkin cooks the meals because her mother is too drunk and passed out. Pumpkin buys her the alcohol. I mean, yes,
Actually,
her
Pumpkin cooks the food because her mom burns. One time her mom almost burns down their house because she gets drunk and leaves the food on the stove and it burns. So she either says she's not hungry or she cooks the food, this 9-year-old.
Yeah. So anyway, we all agree that Pumpkin, in most ways, carries the story. However, there are other people out there who believe that this story is actually held by Joseph Sekavungo, who happens to be Pumpkin's father. What do you
Also
guys
known
want?
as Tata.
Yeah.
So it should be, first of all, Tata in this story. He's very pivotal because he is Pumpkin's father, but Toleta is not his wife. So Toleta is his side chick, and I think because of that, he has many other women, that he's surrounded with. He has a wife who he's with at home. He has this Toleta chick,
And the
and then the mother, Mama T.
Yeah.
And then there's also Grandma Ponga, there's Gloria. So anyway, this man is the center of the story, in a sense, but then he is surrounded, by all these women whose lives he's making a mess. But because the book is narrated by Pumpkin, I think she is more central to the story, in my opinion. Yeah.
And besides, we have experiences in Tudukot with Pumpkin outside of Tata.
Maybe
Yes,
to just
yeah,
defend that
exactly.
point, I feel like Pumpkin, in the sense, everything that happens sort of happens because of her father. I mean, the breakdown of the relationship between her grandmother and her mother is because of her father. Her relationship with her mother and how weird it is because Pumpkin never had a real mom who took care of her and loved her. She was a parent to her mother. That was also her father's fault. A lot of her complexes as Pumpkin come from her father being this very horrible man to her in some ways, but in other ways, as can be debated, he was a good father as in his head. He was a good father as far as his complexes could let him be to her.
Yeah.
But I think in that sense, the story can be argued that it is centered around this one man who in my head destroys so many women's lives, so many people's lives, because even as his real wife struggles to give this man love who does not want it and becomes this horrible person, not because she's meant to be a horrible person, but because this man, does all these things to turn her into this monstrous stepmother.
Yeah, I was going to say something about Tata. So we're describing him and saying how he basically destroys these women's lives in many various ways. But then I think for some intents and purposes, Tata was a good man.
Yes.
So one of the ways in which, I think that's something that I commend Ellen for doing, is she doesn't polarize the characters. So you have, for example, your protagonist, Pumpkin, who, most people would make her seem so lovable and likable and everything about her is good, but there are many things that, all those things that she's been through. But then there's so many ways in which she actually does bad things. She does evil things, and you're just like, wow, Pumpkin, really? the way she starts narrating this story, number one, it's clear both her and her mother have, I guess that's in everyone anyway, but they want everyone looking at their life should look and see that it's perfect, it's wholesome, it's complete. Because even in the beginning, when the car can't start, Pumpkin's biggest irritation is that her friends are around watching. And now there's this, it's such an obvious sign of rejection to both Toletta and her mother. And it's just like, wow, guys, these guys there's so much that they're trying to hide behind. There's a facade. They don't want the world to see that they are breaking and hurting inside and all of these things. So yeah, I think for me, that was an insight.
Going back to, this whole facade, there's a point in the book where Pumpkin, I think when she had moved in with Tata, where she says that, people think she's strong, but she cries a lot on the inside. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's that same thing of even like the way she would, like when she was a child in Tunduko, the way she would pretend to her friends that our life is perfect, that my dad is going to come and bring me all these nice things and all those things. So I feel like for her, as a young child, she was told, I think subconsciously in her head, she told herself, the world cannot see me break. So she would cry in the inside so people can never tell that she's not okay.
But I also think that speaks to how she literally took care of a lot of people around her. For example, her mom, who, there's a time in the book when she had thrown up, actually this is why the father takes her away from her mom. When she had thrown up, the mom was so drunk, and then the father visits them, and Pumpkin was trying to clean up, and then she sprays, I think it was Doom or something, in order to mask the smell. So when the father comes in, and he's like, what's that smell? It smells so weird in here. And he eventually finds out that the mother had thrown up because she was drunk.
Yes.
Doesn't that speak to how she's constantly
Because there's
taking
also
care
a part in the book when her grandmother comes to visiting, and then her dad arrives, and then she goes to welcome her dad, sort of to keep him outside, so that her dad and her grandmother wouldn't have to meet, because her grandmother hates her father so much. So she doesn't want this sort of
encounter.
Yeah.
She's always trying to keep the peace. But I think that has a sort of Coke bottle effect, especially on Pumpkin, actually, because number one, there's a point in the book when she's at Tata's house and her mom is going to remarry. Toletta is going to marry Uncle Oscar, and she's just feeling all kinds of emotions, and her reaction is to accuse Uncle Oscar of molesting her, of sexually molesting her, which wasn't true. And I feel like it was a reaction to, she's been keeping so many things inside. So the way she actually comes to, talk about that whole experience is she starts crying. Like, she's just sitting and she starts crying, and Sissy, the maid at the house, asks, what's going on? Why are you crying? And for, a while she can't talk. She can't actually say what it is that's going on. And then this is what comes out. And I feel like it's such extreme reactions.
I feel like
another Coke bottle thing is when but maybe we're not talking about the second book yet. But then when the whole Salome situation, because she has, but maybe we're not at that point of the story yet.
No.
Should I talk about it?
Okay.
I was going to say, just to add to that part, for me personally, I feel like Sissy kind of, this is going to make people argue, but I feel like Sissy prompted her to say something huge. Do you get? Like, it goes back to that thing of you can't cry in African tradition. You can't cry for emotions. You can't cry for something small. You can't cry because you feel sad or sad or happy. I mean, you have to cry because something bad happened. So I think Sissy was expecting a big thing, and Pumpkin could see that. So she couldn't just say, I'm crying because my dream of my parents
getting back together
will never happen because my mom is getting married, which was a legitimate reason to cry, but not in that setting. So she had to find something that was
bigger.
I was going to say, though, when you were saying the book is told at that start in a 9-year-old perspective, I struggled to believe that was a 9-year-old saying some of these things. Like, there were points in the book when I was like, is this still Pumpkin speaking? Because she's a child and there are certain revelations that she comes to or things that she says, and a 9-year-old shouldn't be.
But then can we comment on that, especially because how you just said there's a lot that Pumpkin goes through. Her life experience makes her a lot more mature than a regular 9-year-old. Like, there's so much, there's so much, she's the one who's she's 9 years old and she's protecting her alcoholic mother from her father. Like, I feel like there's a lot of responsibilities that are thrown upon her.
When she protects her mom from herself, from her mom's self-destruction, like when she's talking to her,
Yes.
or when there's a point when she buys her mom, when she goes to the shop and breaks the booze and then comes back, she doesn't even confess to her mom what happened. Instead, she tells a lie to make sure that her mom didn't know.
It's okay.
But Pumpkin also says that, especially in the beginning, Pumpkin, there's a part where Pumpkin says that she thinks I don't know, when the mother is lying to her about having stopped drinking and how it's her juice or her medicine. Pumpkin says she thinks I don't know, but I see these things and I know these things. And that already tells you that even before that, there have been things that have made her have to grow up, that have made her have to open her eyes to everything that's around. So for me, I really found it believable, because she's had to be the adult in the house. What 9-year-old
so many ways.
Being the adult in the house.
Yes.
She makes sure that there's food in the fridge, probably. Because she's the one they are sending to the shops
She's the one
anyway.
that's responsible, yeah.
If the father is not bringing, then...
But even the image she creates of her mother in Tundu Court, like when people start to realize certain things, the fact that she'll cover the alcohol so people don't know that she's buying alcohol for her mom, or she
hides the bottle.
She'll hide the bottle. She'll defend her mom to continue this facade her mom has created
of perfection. So Pumpkin, I think I've already talked about the fact that Ellen does not make her characters, specifically bad or good in a sense. And Pumpkin, as a child, there's many things that she ends up doing in the book that are actually bad. There's, in reaction to when see Banda, I think the guy at the alcohol store, she mouths a word, when he touches her inappropriately, that is a horrible word, as in beyond the realms of our imagination.
We have to imagine.
Yeah. And, she tells the lie with Uncle Oscar, says that Uncle Oscar is the one who touched her inappropriately. And there's many other things that she does, as a child. She steals Mama T's ring. I think this was one of the most... her stepmother's ring. And throws it in the rubbish and covers it with rubbish.
Actually, it was more dramatic than that, because she puts it in her mouth and then they interrogate them about the ring, and she does not flinch.
She does not crack. And then even when they are on Sissy, who Pumpkin obviously loves, she's just like, no, I'm not going to... so she basically in the book, there's a lot of ways she comes off as a really evil person. So would you say that she's just a victim of circumstance, or is she actually a bad child?
I think she's human. I think she's human, and she's acting out as a 9-year-old.
But I also think it's that thing of boundaries. Like how people say that if you don't give children boundaries, if you don't discipline them, then they will never learn. Nobody in this book ever disciplines except Pumpkin. Yes, except Sissy that one time. But for her whole childhood, she does all these things, and because all the people around her know that, especially her parents, know that everything she does is a reaction to the fact that they have neglected to actually raise her, they don't do anything. So I feel like it's also that thing of, if you are raised with no boundaries, there are no consequences to your actions, then of course there's a way as a person you become, I don't say evil, but it's easy for you then to do certain things, because you're not necessarily thinking about what the outcome will be or what it will.
You said something about how her parents do not rebuke her for the things she does because they've neglected her. But then we also see that Gloria, who happens to be one of Tata's educated side chick, when she sees Pumpkin stealing from her bag, she also doesn't do anything. She didn't do anything about it.
I think it's the same thing. It's okay for Gloria. It can be discussed in two ways, because she was also a psychologist, and she could see that this child is messed up. That this child is most probably doing these things as a reaction to everything that has happened to her. But I also think it's guilt. I mean, if your sugar daddy brings his side chick's daughter to your house, I mean, it's already, that situation is messed up.
But do you think she knew that?
The Pumpkin is Tata's daughter.
Toletta's.
Oh, maybe not Toletta's.
I don't think she knew.
Whichever way that you even if it was whatever way, he has to a chick. Even if you look at it in the sense of Mama T's child, because this child has to go back to her mother and pretend she doesn't know who Gloria is. She has not just seen that her father has another chick. So I think in her head, she knew, now who am I to scold you? Do you get like that?
I think
sort of thing.
The first part of the story, I think it's the prologue, they talk about how when there was some discussion in terms of Pumpkin's birth certificate.
Oh,
so
that's
these guys
had one of my favorite things. The way the book starts.
Yeah, exactly. So Tata had a birth certificate for Pumpkin, and Grandma Ponga also had a birth certificate for Pumpkin, and there were different names. And in the midst of all of this fighting, Grandma Ponga says how she went to Tata's office, and about to become a bit graphic, but yeah, so she picks his things and squeezes them to stop the tap from running. What? Bad seed. And the thing that, and what Pumpkin says is that from that time, even when she was a baby, she says she understood that she was bad seed. And I feel like that might be one of the reasons why all of these things are happening. I feel like there's a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, in the sense that if I've been born to believe I am just a bad seed, I'm not wanted, I am the person who was a mistake, even my own mother is getting drunk, because there's a sense in which she's attached to Tata, and it's like, if my father is the one causing my mother this much pain, then why am I even here? There's just a lot of, there's a whole dynamic into which she was born.
I don't think she sees herself as in, why am I even here? I think she, first of all, she had fantasies about a relationship with Tata, like just being in a home where there's mommy, daddy, a stable home. Yeah. So even when she moves into the same house as her father, knowing that, with the knowledge that her father can be messy, her father can be XYZ, she still sees him as a good person. She still sees him as, this is Tata, Tata loves me, Tata provides, Tata, So I don't think
that's self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
But then why did she mention it? Because she says explicitly that from even when she was a baby on her grandma's back, she knew she was a bad seed.
There even think she says that she blames herself for the fact that her grandmother and her mother don't get along. Until later, when it's discovered that it's deeper than just Pumpkin. Pumpkin assumes the reason that their relationship is so bad, because she even says that her grandmother tries to love her but cannot, because
of that
who
connection.
Her father is.
Yeah. No, I thought, when I read that part, I thought that the grandmother failed to love her because the grandmother worked so hard to put all the kids through school. So now when Toleta went to university, because Toleta gets pregnant at university,
but she doesn't.
By Tata. So when Toleta comes back with a baby, the mother is just like, now look at this chick.
But then she doesn't. You know her two sons who are drunks? She doesn't hate on them as much as she does on Toleta.
But they are not the point of the story. The point is Pumpkin, Toleta, and the grandmother.
But that's what I'm saying. I think for Pumpkin, it was. She sees that it's deeper than just that disappointment, because she relates it somewhere in connection to her father. She says she really, like, she says that if she basically says that I'm the reason, that I'm living proof of how this man destroyed my mother's life, sort of thing. Because it would, I guess, there's that pain of, yes, you took your kid to school and they got pregnant in university, but it would be different if it was with a good man. But of all people, with that man, I think that's
sugar daddy.
Which we later discover it's not just about who he was, it's also about the relationship that he had with her mother, with the grandma.
So I'm sorry to jump a bit, but this relationship with the grandmother, I really feel like we need to discuss it and actually put it on the table.
But that's the thing. I feel like
whose relationship? Tata's relationship
with
the grandmother. There's a big question mark. Yeah, I think it's never resolved.
She never really says it. It's all ambiguous. Like, it's all.
But towards the end, you get a sense of what actually went on. It seems
so you
like
think
it
they
was
had a relationship?
Yeah. I really do believe that Tata and like, why is this man everywhere? Like,
so wait, with
in your opinion, you think this man
had a thing?
Wait, do you think that Toleta knew that her mother had a relationship with this man?
Eventually, she finds out.
So
I think
for my
exactly.
I know.
I think Tata had a thing with the grandmother.
Ponga.
Then Toleta has a thing with.
So most probably he even met her in that bar that her grandmother. I don't know, because
exactly.
The grandma's bar. Yeah, the one that grandma runs.
Most probably how this whole thing, how they meet.
How it started.
So do you want to
dive in? Okay, so there's part 1 of the book and part 2. Part 1, Toleta, it mainly focuses on Tudukot and at Pumpkin's father's house. Yes, she has to move to her father's house. So at the end of part 1, we see Toleta, Pumpkin's mother, marrying Uncle Oscar, and I think Pumpkin has to live with them for some time. Then
She'd spend, I think,
Yeah.
the week and then the weekend.
the weekends,
Yeah, so her
yes. So
parents
it was
now
a
have
bit of
shared
shared custody,
Pumpkin.
exactly. So fast forward a couple of years later, part 2 starts, and it opens with a grown-up Pumpkin.
Fighting.
So she
Out
starts
here.
this fight with this
Snatching a
lady
whip.
in the parking lot of a.
Just imagine like a scene in all those
Exactly.
ratchet hip hop wives.
Yes,
Love
which
and
and that for me that jump was a bit jarring. I must say, I felt like it was too. I don't know. It wasn't a smooth transition into the second story. No,
Anyway,
she's fighting with this lady, and we later find out that this lady, Salome. Pumpkin suspects Salome of having an affair with her husband. Her husband is called Tembo. Yes,
Yeah.
Tembo. So
And she's
she saw
fighting.
them.
By the way, her
Yes.
kid is in the car.
Her baby, So when the fight gets a bit intense, this, you know how in Africa, anyone who you see commotion, you also come and just add yourself. So there's like a mob, and they're about to attack this girl, and I think Pumpkin comes to her senses, and she's like, no, I can't let this girl die here.
Because
She
the mob
picks her.
even says a lot of things about the chick that Salome, that Pumpkin is. The mob is like, oh, these girls, they've come take our husbands.
Let's beat them.
And
yes.
then they beat.
So they're
the
going
mob.
to beat her. Yeah, they're going to beat Salome, but she gets into the car, and Pumpkin now wants to take her wherever it is that she's going. But this Salome creature is a bit. Sorry, I beg your pardon, not creature.
Chick.
But
she's
yeah,
a bit
so
of a
she's
creature,
a
'cause
bit
she really-
weird
she's
because
so weird.
she
Creature
seems to
is-
have found she seems to have found what it is that irritates Pumpkin, and she decides to fixate on this thing. So she's really nice. She's carrying the baby, feeding the baby, and all of these things. And then
Keep in mind,
Pumpkin-
she's doing all these things in torn clothes. You guys, as the
it was all a bit random, in all honesty,
And she's
because
a bit
she's
gross,
dropped
yeah.
off at like the bus stop or something.
Like
And
Pumpkin
she
tells
walks
her where, and then Pumpkin's like, should we go somewhere and I get you something to wear? And she's like, no, you just give me that scarf in your car. And then she
And
wraps
then she
herself
just
and
ties.
says, I'll return it. And she gets out and walks out. Imagine this chick in nothing but a scarf.
And no shoes. And then she turns around and says, bye. So anyway, yeah. So this is
She sounds a bit mentally unstable, by the way, in this book.
honestly. So yeah, basically part 2 opens like this, and it goes on to we kind of engage with Pumpkin at this more mature point in her life. So now she's married, she has a daughter.
She has gone to school abroad.
She's an architect now, and I think we see a lot more of the aftermath of a lot of the things that happened to her in her childhood, because she was proposed to 3 times, first of all.
When she was in
And she
university.
accepts only the 3rd time.
To her husband.
To her husband, yes. To her
And I also
husband.
think it develops now. Pumpkin, as older Pumpkin, we start to see her relationship with her father as what Pumpkin has always wanted. They are real friends. Like they have conversations, because she goes abroad and she studies and she's now successful. And she comes back home to her father from abroad, and she's this girl with her degree in architecture, and she's going to be, because in the book somewhere her dad talks about I think for me that was like a really nice thing to see. Because I feel like a lot of these books that when that girl is messed up, she ends up pregnant, on drugs. Yeah, but we see that doesn't happen to Pumpkin. Yes, we later come to see that she has a lot of issues, but she actually goes to school
but in a weird way, like people kind of have a lead on it. Yeah. So for example, Tata, when she tells Tata about that Salome chick, Tata is like, no, don't worry, I'll deal with it. Yeah. Even Tembo, because remember she had suspected that Salome was having an affair with Tembo. Yeah. And she goes home and Tembo's like, man, calm down, that wasn't like that. You get, so it's like everyone is doing this thing of extinguishing a fire when it comes to Pumpkin. It's like
because they can see, But also, like, I think for me, what was so interesting about the transition from baby Pumpkin to adult Pumpkin is how she, in that, oh god, my printer's gone, like black
it happens.
Oh, someone else.
So the relationship between Tata and Pumpkin.
No, I was going to say something else, but continue.
So
I
brought
was going
this
to say,
in
I was
to
going
explore.
to say, which was going to bring me back to some things in part. I was going to say that how you see that she fights with this chick and her baby's in the back seat, and when she sits in the car, the realization hits her that she was in a fight in public, and her baby was in the back, and this baby is also a girl, a daughter. So you begin to see that this is sort of like a generational thing. Her mother and her grandmother had a horrible relationship. She had a weird relationship with her mom, and then Pumpkin now starts. It's like as if the writer wants us to see that Pumpkin is starting to realize that I'm going to do this to my own daughter.
Yeah.
And that for me was interesting to see, because I mean, part of this book, I think what comes out is how your mother has a lot of influence in the person you become, because we can see, like, one, even if I guess her grandma did everything she could to make Toleta everything she still was a woman running a bar. And in my head, if she's having a relationship with this young man, clearly he's not the first. And so that in her head.
Which young man?
But you also see
Tata.
You don't think they were age mates?
No, they were not.
Grandma Ponga and Tata. But also because Tata started his rubbish a long time ago. Yeah, that's true. Because Tata was old. He wasn't
Yes, but I don't think they were age mates.
But I don't think you could consider him a young.
I don't consider him young, but I consider him too young for a woman that age to be settling down.
But they were age mates.
I don't think they were settling down.
I don't think they were age mates, because honestly, when he talks about like being a young boy and suffering and because all that stuff, I don't think they were age mates. I think if we're saying like Mama was 50, he was like 40. I think there was still an age gap. That's the way I'm seeing it. But even if other way, I mean, the way they describe her grandmother shows that there were things, of course, in her past that could have now been the reason Toleta was the way she was. And because Toleta decided not to deal with these things and let all these things make her this person, and then they come down to Pumpkin.
So, can we talk about how a lot of these actions stem out of something done by a man? Yeah? So, for example, we've talked about the relationship between Mama, Toleta, and Pumpkin, and how it's so problematic because of Tata. And then we see Pumpkin is fighting because she believes in her mind that Tembo is having a relationship with Salome. But then also when Uncle Oscar, back at Tudu Court, comes back sometimes, I think, to check on, because he was the patron of Tudu Court, comes back to check on things, and there are women fighting over him. But also, in addition to that, eventually we see that Toleta ends up with HIV and AIDS because of Oscar and his infidelity.
But also there's that thing also in Tudu Court of these women coming to Sonia's mother, in the who was sort of like a healer or witch doctor or whatever. Banabi. When they come to her, and all their problems are male related. Yeah. All these women are coming to pay these women money to take all these ridiculous herbs for men to love them, or men to leave their side chicks,
or abortions,
because of men. Like everything in this book shows how, not everything, but the book depicts how women are losing their minds, sort of.
Even Mama T. Mama T was only happy when Tata was around. And then she was
her whole
in
life
the war.
Mama T is even a good example, because her whole life centers around this man who sort of destroys her and belittles her and says all these things about her.
Sorry to laugh, but when she was looking for him, there's a part because the backdrop actually of this story is war.
Is the Rhodesian War. Yes.
So it so happens that Mama T's house, which also happens to be Tata's house, is right next to a base, and there's shooting, things exploding during the night. So she realizes that Tata is not even in the house, and then she goes out in the morning to look for Tata. But Tata comes back eventually, and he finds that she's not in the house, Mama T. And then he's like, where is this stupid woman? How can she go out to fight when the children are here? They're hungry, they're starving. Who does she think she is? Does she think she's
going to look for a grown man? A grown man?
But even just now that you said that,
mean.
In my head, I'm just like, but this, why did Mama T stay? I mean, even after he says all this, first of all, he brings his side chick's child to their house one night and says, take care of her. Then, I mean, the things he says about her, he sort of belittles her as this ignorant, ugly. I mean, he always ends up with young. Then he leaves her for Sonia at some point. And then when Sonia leaves, he goes back to Gloria. Gloria, the second side chick.
The educated
side chick. Because he falls in love with her in his own way of love, and then leaves Mama T for her. Then she leaves, and he goes back as if baggage, as if since nobody else. But she stays. There's that thing of, oh my God, you cannot do anything without these men. There's that sort of
I think it's really just evidence of the society that we live in. It is
Or
really...
they lived in.
Or they lived in.
Yeah.
But then can we say... Yeah, but it was a long time
But I
ago.
think
Yeah.
I also still think,
1961.
that society is
It's
still
still,
happening
yeah,
today.
it
I still
really
think
is a
that-
patriarchal
yeah.
society. There's so many ways in which women will either go mad or bend over backwards because I'm supposing like Mama T might go to her mother and complain and be like, this man is doing these things to me and what, and she's like, excuse me, you have a roof over your head, your children are going to school, where are you going to
And he's
live
even
and
a
go
rich
to
man, yeah.
what where are you going to go?
But also
So-
mention that Mama T is very much in the church. So there's also that religion aspect as to why she stays. Because remember when there's, I don't know what part it is, but there's a part where Pumpkin is hiding under the curtain.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is, yeah,
And her friend visits.
from church.
and they have
Yes,
tea
from
and what,
church, they have
yes,
tea, they are talking.
yes.
And she's talking about Pumpkin being the devil manifest. Can you imagine this devil in my house?
And then that
And she's not blaming Tata,
Tata.
who brought Pumpkin to the house, as in.
Or not looking at Pumpkin as this 9-year-old child who was just born into the situation.
It's not
Yeah.
her
She
fault.
never picked
She didn't
her
choose.
mother to have an affair with this. I think there's that, but I also think, at least for Pumpkin, I mean, her superstition on her husband cheating on her. I feel like Pumpkin had never seen a real relationship. No one in Tundukot was really married or in a normal, stable
That's actually
relationship.
Yeah.
She goes to Mama T and her father, and they're in this. It's not love. I mean, by the time he's so bold to take her to Gloria, he sees that. I mean, even Gloria and Papa don't work. So she has never actually seen a man who is faithful to his woman. She has never seen a normal father, mother, children, and that's it kind of marriage. So I guess even no matter what her husband says to her,
Yeah.
in her head, she just can't believe that this man is going to be faithful. She knows, she's waiting. So and in her head, these women have fought for their relationship.
It's a thing.
I don't know why in her head she doesn't see that they fought, but nothing has ever worked. But she still thinks this is the way it's
No,
done.
but it's that thing that when she sees Mama T staying, at the end of the day, he comes back. Tata comes back.
But
no,
to what?
exactly.
That's
It's
my
not.
point.
It's not
He does-
about
she
the
doesn't-
emotions. It's about the manifestation
of a marriage.
Yeah, here it is. We have a home. We have kids. Come back. You go. You go.
And
You
I
come
love,
back,
you
you
know,
come
I was
back.
like in part 1, I wanted to hug her. In part 2, I just want to slap her. I really do, because she could have ended with someone with that many issues. She could have ended up with the worst kind of guy. Because usually chicks with daddy issues end up with really. But her husband Tembo is so
patient,
but
so
he also
patient.
sees her cycle, and he's like, I still love you, because he can't see it. He can't see all that, and he's trying to be emotionally available to her. But because she has never had that in her life, she just keeps shutting him down.
Because she doesn't know what it looks like. Also,
Okay, since we're at the end of this episode, I'd like to ask you guys, what did you love about this book? I know we love many things, but what's the thing about Patchwork that you love the most?
well, one thing that we haven't spoken about, and I hope that everyone gets to see when they read the book, is Pumpkin's. I was about to say Patchwork. Pumpkin's relationship with her friends at Tundukot.
Yeah.
With how complex it is, how with B who eventually marries a white guy and she's doing so well, and yet Pumpkin always wanted to be the one who was doing better than B. So I really enjoyed those dynamics. I enjoyed the dynamics around I enjoyed the dynamics between mother and daughter.
Yeah.
So it's not just her relationship with her mother, but also like the relationship between Toleta and grandma. Yeah, so those are the dynamics that I really enjoyed about the book, especially because they were so human. They were so human. You could read the book and be like, man, I get why this chick is angry, actually.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I've already really mentioned why I like it. But really, yeah, to rehash, it's related to what you're saying. I think for me, the characters in this book... The characters in this book, guys, are really humanized. Ellen does a wonderful job of like making sure there's no character that's just bad or just good. Like, because I mean, at the end of the day, as humans, we're both. Like, there's no one that is all evil or all, amazing. And I really like that she does that, even with Pumpkin, who has been through so much. It's why we can actually ask the question, is Pumpkin just an evil child, or is she just a victim of circumstances? Because we're given room to have that discussion. So I really love her character development. I think for me that was my favorite part of the book. And I love Sissy. Sissy reminds me of Viola Davis from The Help. She just had that vibe. She was an anchor for Pumpkin in so many ways. She was an island of sanity.
Or reality,
You
even.
know, or
Yeah.
reality,
Yeah.
you know, because everyone else is just a mess in Pumpkin's life. Although Sissy also had her problems, you guys, she was married to a drunkard,
fourth
but
guy. But
yeah,
you read that
she
in the
was,
book.
yeah.
I think for me, I like the way that the story is so relatable. There's so many things about this story that are true to real life, especially because it's set in a normal African setting. There's a Tundu court in Uganda. Like I grew up in a estate at some point, so you can see that whole thing of the kids playing in the compound and everybody knowing everybody's business, and that whole aspect. I love the Tundu court part the most because it was very funny, very relatable. But I also think that for me, that's about the book what I liked. It wasn't too far from real life without being too after school special. It was very, and this book actually has cliffhangers that are not. It's not deep. Like you can't tell where the story is going for me at some point. So I like that as well. To be shocked. It's these days I feel like when you've read a lot and watched a lot of movies, nothing shocks you. But there were things in Patchwork that did. But overall, I think the story, and I think how they really developed the idea of love as something that we as human beings crave, no matter how it's given to us.
Yeah, dude,
I think
actually,
for me,
the
that was my
exploration
best
of
thing.
love
Love
Yeah.
and hate, same.
was
so
Yes.
genuine and so humanized.
That's
Yeah,
so
it
true.
wasn't
It's
this
true.
fairy tale. It
Yeah.
was the honest depiction that we crave love so badly that even when we get it in its worst form, we will
Take it.
accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for watching, guys.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.